that's for sure. Wait a minute. So, as a few of you might know, I changed the topic, so it's not the topic in the bulletin, but it felt like with so much going on in our planet and this country today, that we need a little laughter. We need a little lightness. So I feel like this spiritual center is a place where you can come. We're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about, oh, ain't it awful. We're not going to do that. We can do that everywhere else. Right here, we want to focus on knowing that there's a power for good, and we are each and every one of us a part of it. And that power for good is so beautifully expressed in Brenda's reading, is a power of love. A power of absolute love. And so I just started the February theme of love a little earlier. It begins on Wednesday, but we're going to kick it up and just begin it today, because I think we need a little laughter, a little lightness, and a little love. So I want to share a message that was full of love and living in the light. That's what I want us to get today. So let's explore the topic of love. And know that we're not talking about romantic relationships, because people often cringe at that thought of talk about love, and we're not talking about that kind of love. We're talking about a divine love, a love that we are. That's the truth of who we are. That's the essence of who we are. And so the theme for February will be on the wings of love. And this divine love is present within each and every one of us if we tap into it. And we're going to go into ways today of how we can really tap into it and use this spirituality that we learn here, really use it. So each week in February, we'll look at a different aspect of love and the love of the divine as we spread our wings and fly into L, which is living in the light and laughter, which will be this week. Omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience, that'll be next week. Let me get some of these out of there. V, vision and vitality the week after. And finally, we're going to finish it off with enthusiastic enlightenment, which is one of my favorite. I love vitality. I love enthusiasm. That's why the name of our spiritual community is Joyful Gathering. Because we come together to celebrate joy, which is an attribute of the divine. It's expressing God. So today is living in the light and laughter. So, a guy from New Jersey dies and is sent to hell. The devil puts him to work breaking up rocks with a sledgehammer. To make it worse, he cranks up the temperature and the humidity. After a couple of days, the devil checks in on his latest arrival to see if he is suffering adequately. The devil is aghast as the guy from New Jersey is happily swinging his hammer and whistling a happy tune. The devil walks up to him and says, "I don't understand this. I've turned the heat up and it's humid. You're crushing rocks. Why are you so happy?" The guy from New Jersey with a big smile looks at him, the devil, and replies, "This is great. It reminds me of August in New Jersey. Hot, humid, a good place to work. It reminds me of home. This is fantastic." The devil, extremely perplexed, walks away from this man to ponder these remarks. Then he decides to drop the temperature, send down driving rain and torrential winds. Soon hell is a wet, muddy mess. Slogging through the mud up to his knees, the guy from New Jersey is happily pushing a wheelbarrow full of crushed rocks. Again, the devil asks, how can he be so happy in these conditions? The guy from New Jersey replies, "This is great. Just like April in New Jersey reminds me of working out in the yard planting the spring plants." The devil is now completely baffled, but more determined to make this guy from New Jersey suffer. He makes the temperature plummet. Suddenly, hell is blanketed with snow and ice. The devil is confident this will surely make the guy from New Jersey unhappy. He is again aghast at what he sees. The guy from New Jersey is dancing and singing and swirling the sledgehammer around as he cavorts with glee. How can you be so happy? Don't you know it is 40 degrees below zero, screams the devil. Jumping up and down, the guy from New Jersey throws a snowball at the devil and says, "Hell's frozen over. Hell's frozen over." This can only mean that the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Let's go there.
So I thought this joke, getting a little laughed, I thought this joke was appropriate because it's Super Bowl Sunday next week.
And the Eagles are
Plus I wanted you to just get into a little bit of the lightness that only laughter can bring. Here's a premise for today's work with light and laughter. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Humor and lightness, that's God's love expressing. Our ability to laugh in the midst of chaos, confusion, circumstances that seem so dark and so chaotic. These are gifts from the divine when we can move to a place of connecting with that indwelling light. These are gifts for us to move through. And as these divine beings that we are, they're indicators of how much we are living into and from this divine love. So I'm going to say that again because I think it's pretty cool. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the midst of challenging circumstances, chaos, confusion, are an absolute gift from the divine. They are indicators of how much we are living into and from this love. And the plan for today is to shine light and laughter in places where we could really use a big dose of God's love, divine love. We could really use it. So is everybody up for that?
Yes.
Good. Let's begin. So there is a song written by the fabulous Leonard Cohen that says this: "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." So I want to make one slight change at the end of this. It's a significant adjustment to those lyrics. And the adjustment is a reflection of this story that I'm going to tell. It's a true story. And I think it speaks to the meaning of what that light within us can truly do, what it really even means. It's a story of a young man who had cancer in his leg, and ultimately the only thing to be done to save his leg was to amputate it. This was extremely difficult for him to handle. He was young, fit, athletic, and now with only one leg, he went through a deep, dark night of the soul. But while he was in physical rehab facility, they also offered him emotional rehab. And one thing that helped him was art therapy. Of the drawings he drew early in his therapy, one was a flower vase with a great crack in it. That was how he saw himself: flawed, damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use to anyone. Do you know anyone has ever felt that way? Flawed? Maybe we have. Flawed, cracked. You don't have to lose a limb. But you may have felt this way, and for anyone that does, the story is then perfect for you right here today. Because this is how the young man felt. But he persevered in his physical and emotional healing and made great strides in both. Years after the healings, he returned to the place where he recovered, going there as a compassionate friend to help those who were going through something like what he went through. And he was drawn into the room of this young woman who also had cancer and had a double mastectomy to save her life. And when he went into her room, her face was turned toward the wall. And even without a word or gesture from her, he could feel the heaviness and despair coming from this young woman. There was no acknowledgement that she heard anybody enter her room, although surely she had. He spoke to her, tried to connect with her, but she was not available, and she wouldn't respond in any way to him. She just laid there with her face turned toward the wall. Suddenly he had an idea and decided to take a risk, and he turned the radio on in her room and turned up the volume, took off his prosthetic leg, stood on one foot and started to dance. And she slowly turned to him to see what in the world was going on, eyed him suspiciously for a few moments. Well, I suppose if you can dance, I can sing. And that she did, which was the beginning of her road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. And of course, you might know where the story goes to. It goes down the aisle to the altar where they were married sometime later. And it's a sweet end to a story, for sure. But it's not the real point. The real point of the story is that on that same day at his visit to his future wife, he also visited the therapist and who had helped him through the dark night of the soul. And he looked through some drawings that he had left behind. Among them, he saw the one with the cracked vase, the one that symbolized his brokenness and uselessness. In that moment, he realized that the drawing was incomplete. So he grabbed a yellow marker and started to draw bright streaks of light coming through the crack, because he clearly knew that without that crack, he would never have become the man that he was today. Ring the bells that still can hear. Forget that. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget our perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. My revision to that quote just for today is that's also how the light gets out. It gets out from within. Within us is this bright, beautiful light that sometimes we have so covered up. We have so enmeshed it in darkness and mud that we forget that we are bright beings of light. We come in as light and we leave as light. We're just having this whole human experience in between. But the light is always present. It's always there. That's how the light gets out, through our cracks and flaws and different ways of living this thing called life. And when we realize that there is a light inside in the first place, planted there in everyone, every single person, no one left out, by the love of the divine. God loves us so much that within us is that God self, that light of God's self, is where we can really lighten up about life. When we let go of having to have perfect offerings and rather know that we are perfect in God's love. In the mind of the divine, we are perfect. And then we can bring light to the world, lightness and laughter to the world. But it's only when we realize that we are part of a oneness that is immense in its radiating light, its radiating love. That's where we get to. And when we get to that point, we know, all right, we can get a little angry if something comes on the TV or we read something we don't like. But always go back to remember that there is a light of God within me that is stronger than any darkness that seems like it's outside, which we know is changeable because it's a condition. Modern fiction writer Jodi Picoult once said, "There's always going to be bad stuff out there. But here's the amazing thing." I thought this was a pretty amazing line. "Light trumps darkness." Every time. I didn't make it up. Quoting someone. Let me repeat that. Light trumps darkness every time. You can stick a candle into the dark, but you can't stick dark into the light. Something for us to remember. We are light beings. That is the absolute truth of who we are. And the same is true with one thought of God's love. When we think of that, when we think we are loved by the divine, it is like a candle in a dark place in our lives. God's love and light are always present. One thought of this divine love can bring light and lightness to any circumstance that we are troubled by, when we remember to turn within, when we take that breath and hold the knowing that the light of God is the truth of our being, and this too shall pass, because it always does. The light doesn't. The light doesn't. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our troubled selves, causing them to relax and remember the pattern of perfection that lives at their core. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our energetic vibration, causing us to attract rather than repel the good that life has to offer us. Whenever we are experiencing any dark at all, we can light a candle in our lives, and one thought of God's love will expand it. It will light up any darkness. Think of a tea light candle. Just light that in a dark room, and there is light. There is light that is radiating. You are the light, and that's for us to remember. Full, complete, bright, right here, right now, exactly as we are. Even if there is a perceived crack, because we are the harshest judges of ourselves. In the reading, it talked about judgment, but who do we judge the most? And the hardest, the most critically, is ourselves. Time to love every aspect of who we are. This is how the light gets in, this is how it gets out. In his book, Homesick for Heaven, Walter Starkey, and he is sharing some thoughts from Joel Goldsmith, wrote this, which I love. I am the light of the world, and ever will be, and if you accept this teaching, you will shine as the noonday sun, in which there is no darkness at all. I am the light. Will not permit questions of why and wherefore. It accepts itself as a full radiance of the risen sun. I am the light, seeks not for light, health, wealth, success, progress, but knows that which I am seeking, I am. Sing within yourself morning, noon, and night. I am the life, the truth, the light. Let a song of joy and grateful recognition surge through your being, and know that the divine being is your only being, the only being. This being is all-inclusive life, love, substance, law, and reality. Ye are the light of the world. As you rest in this consciousness, you will no longer find it necessary to overcome evil, destroy error, battle mortal mind. In and as the light, the darkness vanishes. Love that. So say with me, I am the light.
I am the light.
Say it again, I am the light.
I am the light.
One more time.
I am the light.
So it is. Yes, that's not the end of the talk. I got a little bit more. We'll call it. Yeah. In and as the light, we'll say two, and so it is today. So in and as the light, the darkness vanishes. In a few moments, we're going to bring some of that light to a place of darkness, but before that, a little bit more on God's love, because I don't think I can hear enough about God's love. I love speaking about it up here. My whole body is tingling, and God bumps are everywhere. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm having a blast up here. But I just don't even know. But anyway, love is in this. I want to share this with you, because this is really cool. It's the story of a lightning bug. Now, who doesn't like a lightning bug? What is the deal with lightning bugs? Here is this rather ordinary-looking flying insect, but wait. It has a glow-in-the-dark rear end. What was God thinking? Science surely has all kinds of explanations about how this fluorescent fanny is useful for mating and other stuff. But what if, when God was creating all the animals and everything around us, she came up with the idea that the lightning bug is a great thing simply because we would love it. We know that God loves us enough to create all the things we need to survive. But could it be that he loves us so much he created something just for us to enjoy? Perhaps lightning bugs have a purpose after all. They are a reminder of a creative God who loves us so much that he even lit up the rear end of a bug just to see us smile. And it's from that smile, you're never going to think about a little lightning bug. So sweet, aren't they? From that smiling place then, within us, let's bring God's love into a place of darkness in our lives. So if you want, you can close your eyes. If not, you can leave them open. In the life of someone we might know, love, or in our world, bring the image of a lightning bug to that situation and simply smile and let the light be brought to the darkness. And then remember this note from the universe, otherwise known as message from God to you. So this isn't a long, that was just a brief close your eyes. You can open them or stay closed. That's your choice. But this is what God wants to say to each and every one of us. This. No matter what your faith is or is not, no matter where in the world you are, I want you to know, even as you hear these words, I am with you. Behind the eyes of every child and in the melody of every song. I'm the glimmer in the ice crystals, the ray in the sun, and the stars at night. And with each smile that you see, every hug you receive, every laugh you hear, I will be there, reaching out through another with blessings and good wishes. And all of this because I love you, because I've always loved you, and because I always will. And because this has been true and will be true every day of your life. The only true reality that exists is this divine love. It is our eternal self, radiating, glowing, shining, allowing us to laugh, allowing us to feel the lightness of this love. And since we have been created out of love itself then, we are love. I want us to remember this. I want us to take this with us during the week. And I want us to, whenever we need to, take a deep breath and just remember that we have been made out of God's love. We are beautiful beings of the light. And that is the truth. And so it is.
And so it is.